Picking up from part 1, and lower back mass, let's look at a few backs before we discuss how Dorian Yates' back compares to Sergio Oliva, Haney, and Ronnie Coleman. Check out Jean-Pierre Fuchs's back development. The combination of spinal erectors blending with his trapezius is like one thick curvy tube spanning from pelvis to neck. J.P. Fuchs had a Paul Dillett level of mass and proportionately longer legs that carried a great deal of mass, a trait similar to Dorian Yates. Fuchs' bodybuilding career was tragically shortened as a result of a squatting injury. Back to Dillett, his lats were not his strength, but his spinal erectors weren't a weakness. Check out this tremendous bowing out of Arnold Schwarzenegger's spinal erectors in this lunging 3/4 back double biceps pose. Although in this 1980 Mr. Olympia lineup, both Dickerson and Zane are exhibiting more lower back detail and depth. Rest assured, Arnold had more relaxed pose back mass in earlier contests. Platz exhibited massive lower back columns. Viator had incredible overall back thickness. Here's a seldom seen 1947 shot of Steve Reeves with a highly detailed lower back. And here is Johnny Johnson with that spinal erector trapezius tube effect. Sergio Oliva's spinal erectors figure prominently into one of his signature back poses. In this lighting, the trapezius cast a shadow break between the trapezius spinal erector mass. Without the extreme lighting, the mass of the traps and the spinal erectors form one long column. Amazing three-dimensional spinal erectors in Oliva's double biceps pose. The 3/4 back poses are also highlighting Oliva's traps and erectors as one long curved mass. Compare to Yates' trap erector combo. Along with the scapular muscle mass, it forms sort of a circular shape. Of course, Oliva was no stranger to circular shapes. In this biceps pose, his forearms and triceps formed an arc. How did Dorian Yates compare to Haney? In his final Mr. Olympia contest before retiring, Haney beat Yates. The 1991 Mr. Olympia was Yates' first Mr. Olympia contest and only his third contest ever. Post-1991, Yates came back with such mass that he not only outmassed his 1991 self, but all previous versions of Haney as well. Haney didn't have any back weaknesses structurally or development-wise. His back, lats, and traps were major assets, but Yates set a new standard in mass and had tremendous lower back and lat striations, to a degree that Haney didn't. Which brings us to Ronnie Coleman. As far as the back in general, Coleman's traps outmass Yates. In this twisting back shot, Ronnie's traps have a three-dimensional thickness similar to Dorian Yates' spinal erectors in some twisting poses. In this back shot, he appears to have traps on top of traps. Ronnie also appears to have more lats or mass under the scapula, like the serratus anterior. This mass on Coleman just hangs off his body. Although Coleman had substantial mass in the spinal erectors, Yates had a more effective Christmas tree pose with thicker, more pronounced striations in the lats and lower back. So, Coleman was more upper traps and lats width dominant, and Yates was more lower back development and thick striation dominant.